Sad one indeed, that has left two children without their mother this afternoon. Now, we talked to the victim's cousin. Now, according to him, the victim came to this home here to tell her boyfriend she was pregnant with his child. Now, she got into an altercation with the man's girlfriend, who shot and killed her. The shooter fled the scene but was apprehended by police a short time later. Now, according to the victim's cousin, the victim had reportedly come to the home to tell her boyfriend she was pregnant. Now, that man's other girlfriend showed up at the house. The two women got into an argument. The victim's cousin said that is when the suspect shot the pregnant woman, killing her.
He was seeing a female earlier today, and he told the female that he was going to his mom's house. While the female left, he told my cousin to come back. While my cousin was here, the female had came and she knocked on the door. Her and the female got into an altercation, which led to him and my cousin getting into an altercation, and then the female shot my cousin in the head. She passed away.
His cousin saying the woman was a mother of two small children, ages 4 and 5.
Nothing about that night, in the early hours of June 20th, 2024, seemed unusual. Until the sound of one gunshot split the darkness. Moments later, a frantic call to 911 shattered the quiet. Inside one of those homes, 24-year-old Kyla Cooper lay motionless on the floor. A single bullet had ended her life. When deputies arrived, the scene was chaotic. Neighbors were standing outside in their pajamas, whispering, clutching their phones, trying to make sense of what they'd just heard. Blue and red lights painted the walls of the house as investigators stepped inside, unsure of what, or who, they would find. Kyla Cooper was a young mother of two. Friends said she was bright, soft-spoken, and strong in ways most never realized. She'd been working hard to build stability for herself and her children, after a difficult year. Her social media showed the image of a woman smiling through the struggle, trying to keep her world together. But behind those smiles, something darker had been brewing. According to reports, the night she died, Kyla had gone to that house on Golfview Terrace after an argument that had been simmering for days. The confrontation wasn't random, it was personal. Emotional. A collision of jealousy, betrayal, and heartbreak. And at the center of it all was another woman, 25-year-old Kyla Tate. The two women had crossed paths before. Friends say tension had been building between them, fueled by rumors, relationships, and complicated emotions involving a man they both knew. But whatever words were exchanged that night would end in something far more permanent than anger. By the time deputies entered the home, the smell of gunpowder still lingered in the air. Kyla's body was found inside, lifeless. Kyla Tate was there too, shaken, silent, and soon to be taken into custody. Outside, the flashing lights reflected off the windows as the neighborhood watched in stunned disbelief. A young mother gone. Another woman in handcuffs. Two lives, two futures, destroyed in one violent instant. In the hours that followed, investigators would begin piecing together the final moments of Kyla Cooper's life. What drove her to that house? What was said before the gun went off? And how did a night meant for confrontation turn into tragedy? As dawn broke over Rockdale County, the questions began to multiply, and the story of Kyla Cooper was only just beginning to unravel. Before the flashing lights and police tape, before her name became a headline, Kyla Cooper was simply Kyla, a young woman trying to build a life she could be proud of. She was 24, a mother of two beautiful children who were her entire world. Friends described her as the quiet strength in the room, soft-spoken, but never weak. The kind of woman who'd carry her pain in silence just to keep others smiling. She loved music, laughter, and nights with her kids when everything felt peaceful, the rare kind of peace she'd fought hard to protect. Kyla had dreams, simple ones but meaningful. She wanted to go back to school. She talked about getting her own place, building something stable, something safe. Her friends say she had a nurturing heart, but also a spark, that kind of inner fire that made her loyal to a fault. If she loved you, she loved deeply. And sometimes, that depth led her into complicated relationships, ones that tested her patience and her faith in people. In the months before her death, those closest to her noticed a shift. She was quieter. Guarded. Something was weighing on her, though she never said exactly what. There were whispers of tension involving a man in her life, someone she had loved, someone she trusted. And according to those who knew her, Kyla had recently shared news that changed everything: she was pregnant. For most people, that kind of announcement would bring joy or hope. But for Kyla, it became the spark that ignited a chain of events she could never have seen coming. What happened next was pieced together through fragments, phone calls, messages, and what witnesses would later tell police. Kyla wanted answers, maybe closure. She wanted to confront what she felt was betrayal, to face the person who had helped turn her life upside down. That decision, born out of emotion, maybe even desperation, would take her to Golfview Terrace. And inside that house was another woman, 25-year-old Kyla Tate. The two women had history, and it wasn't friendly. Kyla was outspoken, fiery, known to stand her ground. To her friends, she was the kind of woman who didn't back down from conflict, especially when her heart was involved. On the outside, both women seemed to live separate lives. But in reality, their worlds had quietly overlapped for months, through love, lies, and a man at the center of it all. What neither of them knew that night was that their confrontation would not end in words, but in tragedy. Because when emotions boil high, and love turns to rage, logic can vanish in an instant. And by the time the night ended, only one of them would walk out alive.
Rockdale County Sheriff deputies lining Golfview Terrace early Thursday morning, swarming this Conyers home.
Upon arrival, they discovered that 24-year-old Kyla Cooper had been fatally shot.
Detectives say they believe the shooting occurred following a verbal altercation between Kyla Cooper and Kyla Tate. Tate was arrested in connection to the deadly shooting and charged with felony murder, but there was someone else who was locked up. Deputies say Rashad Thompson was arrested at the scene for charges unrelated to the murder. Cooper's cousin, who did not want to be shown on camera, tells us that the 24-year-old victim who had 2 children and was pregnant. That family member says his cousin was excited to tell her boyfriend she was pregnant. While she was delivering the news, her boyfriend's other girlfriend showed up.
At this time, we are still investigating what was the exact relationship between Mr. Thompson and also Miss Cooper and also Mr. Thompson.
The weeks leading up to June 20th were filled with warning signs, the kind that, in hindsight, make everything painfully clear. Kyla Cooper's friends remembered her venting about confusion and heartache. She had been dealing with an emotional storm, one rooted in betrayal, and love turned bitter. The man she had been involved with was no longer just hers, and the reality of that was starting to eat away at her peace. Rumors began to swirl that this man had been seeing another woman, Kyla Tate. For a while, Kyla tried to ignore it. She told friends she didn't want drama, that she was focusing on her kids. But the more she tried to move on, the harder it became to escape the whispers. Social media posts, mutual friends, and small-town gossip kept feeding the tension. And then came the pregnancy news. According to people close to Kyla, she had recently told the man involved that she was expecting. What she didn't expect was how that truth would ripple through every corner of her life. Suddenly, the other woman, Kyla, was no longer just a name she'd heard. She was someone Kyla felt she had to confront. It started with messages. Emotional, raw, filled with accusations and pain. No one knows exactly what was said between them, but it's believed the conversation quickly turned heated. Kyla's closest friends tried to talk her down, telling her to stay calm, to stay home. But when emotions mix with betrayal and heartbreak, reason often fades. And that's what made the days before her death feel like a slow-motion unraveling. There were warning signs, small but unmistakable. Posts that hinted at hurt. A shift in Kyla's tone, a certain weariness in her eyes. She was trying to hold it all together, but the weight of it was becoming too much. Meanwhile, Kyla seemed equally on edge. She was said to be protective of her relationship, defensive about her name being dragged into someone else's chaos. Friends say she felt cornered, disrespected, and ready to defend herself, emotionally, if not physically. Two women. Two versions of the truth. both feeling betrayed. Both convinced they were the ones being wronged. And when pride, jealousy, and heartbreak collide, something inside can snap. No one could have predicted that the invisible thread connecting them, a man neither would end up with, would pull them both to the same house on Golfview Terrace. But that night, that thread would tighten until it broke, and with it, 2 lives would be destroyed forever. It was just after midnight on June 20th, 2024. The neighborhood was asleep, the kind of silence where you can hear crickets and the hum of distant traffic. But at a small house on Golfview Terrace, something was building, a confrontation years in the making. Inside, voices were raised. The words weren't captured on camera, but the aftermath would speak louder than anything that was said. According to investigators, 24-year-old Kyla Cooper had gone to that home to confront 25-year-old Arkia Tate. What exactly happened between them in those final moments is still unclear. But what's certain is that tension turned into chaos, and chaos turned into violence. Neighbors later told deputies they heard arguing before the gunfire. One sharp, echoing sound, a single gunshot, cut through the quiet night. When deputies arrived minutes later, they found Kyla inside the home. She had been shot. The scene was tense and emotional. Officers tried to secure the area, unsure if the shooter was still armed. Kyla was pronounced dead not long after. She never made it home to her children. Arkia Tate was at the scene when police arrived. Witnesses say she appeared distraught but composed, a strange calm after the storm. She didn't flee, didn't resist. She was taken into custody on the spot. A man named Rashad Thompson was also found at the scene, though his involvement was unrelated. He was arrested on separate charges involving weapons and drugs, but police quickly determined he was not the shooter. For investigators, the pieces were already starting to fall into place. They had the weapon. They had the suspect. And they had a tragic story that seemed to stem from love, betrayal, and impulse. Kyla's body was transported to the coroner's office, and as the sun began to rise over Rockdale County, her name joined a long list of lives lost to sudden, senseless violence. Detectives worked through the morning, retracing Kyla's steps, reviewing phone records, and interviewing those who knew both women. What they found suggested that the confrontation had been personal, emotional, not premeditated. But that didn't change the outcome. One woman was gone. Another was facing a lifetime behind bars. As the crime scene cleared and the flashing lights faded from the street, neighbors stood in silence. What had once been an ordinary house had become a monument to heartbreak, and the start of a criminal investigation that would reveal just how quickly a life can unravel when emotion overtakes reason. By sunrise, Golfview Terrace was sealed off with yellow tape. The quiet Georgia Street had become a crime scene, and investigators from the Rockdale County Sheriff's Office moved carefully through the home where Kyla Cooper's life had ended just hours earlier. The inside told a story of sudden violence. A single gunshot, fired in anger or fear, had torn through the silence. There were signs of a struggle, scattered items that hinted at confrontation. But the question that haunted detectives was why it happened, and how quickly it all unfolded. Detectives began collecting evidence, fingerprints, ballistic samples, phone data, and the weapon itself. The handgun found inside the home was believed to have been used in the shooting. And the woman who fired it, investigators said, was standing right there when they arrived, 25-year-old Arkia Tate. Arkia was immediately detained for questioning. She didn't try to run, didn't deny being present. But when it came to the crucial question, what led to the trigger being pulled, she gave little away. Meanwhile, Kyla's phone offered a digital trail of heartbreak. Investigators found emotional text exchanges, revealing tension between the two women that had been building over time. Messages filled with anger, sadness, and betrayal. Though some details remain sealed, detectives concluded that the confrontation stemmed from a personal dispute, not random violence. By the end of the day, Arkia Tate was booked into the Rockdale County Jail. Her charges, felony murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. The official statement from the sheriff's office was brief, almost clinical: a woman shot and killed, another taken into custody. But behind those simple words were two shattered families, two sets of children left to grow up without the mothers they once knew. For the community, it was hard to process. Kyla Cooper wasn't a stranger. She was a young mother, a daughter, a friend. And Arkia Tate wasn't the monster some painted her to be. She was also young, with a life that had taken a violent turn in a single instant. Investigators called it a crime of passion, an emotional eruption that spiraled into tragedy. No mastermind plots. No calculated plan. Just a flash of rage that ended everything. In the days that followed, the sheriff's department released few details. But whispers spread online, theories, accusations, and rumors about what really happened that night. Some claimed Kyla had gone there to defend her name. Others said Arkia felt threatened and acted out of fear. The truth, investigators said, was somewhere in between. But truth doesn't change consequence. One life was gone. Another was over. And as Arkia sat in a cell awaiting her first court appearance, the full weight of that night began to settle in, not just for her, but for everyone connected to Kyla Cooper. In the weeks that followed the shooting, the case of State of Georgia versus Arkia Tate moved from the quiet streets of Conyers to the solemn halls of the Rockdale County Courthouse. For many in the community, it was hard to believe how quickly everything had changed. Two young women, once full of potential, now tied together by tragedy and loss. The courtroom was heavy with emotion the day Arkia first appeared before a judge. Dressed in a plain jail-issued uniform, she stood silently as the charges were read: felony murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. She said little, only a quiet, "Yes, Your Honor," when asked if she understood the charges. Prosecutors argued that Kyla Cooper's death was the result of a deliberate act, not a random moment, but a choice made in anger. They painted a picture of jealousy and confrontation, a chain of emotional decisions that ended in violence. To them, the evidence was clear: Arkia Tate had fired the shot that ended Kyla's life. But her defense painted a different story, one rooted in fear, confusion, and chaos. They suggested that the situation escalated faster than anyone could control, that Arkia acted in panic rather than with intent to kill. There was no grand plan, they argued, only an argument that spiraled into irreversible tragedy. Still, in Georgia, intent isn't always required for a murder conviction. The act itself, pulling the trigger during a felony, can be enough. As the proceedings unfolded, the details of that night were dissected in painful clarity. Photos from the scene. Forensic testimony. The sound of investigators describing how they found Kyla lying still on the floor. Each piece of evidence drove home the same heartbreaking reality: a young mother, gone forever.
Just talked to her today, I ordered the lifts. So her and my cousin got to arguing, which led to him and her arguing, and one thing led to another, and she got shot. That's all I know.
Authorities have not confirmed the cousin's claims about what had led up to the shooting or if Cooper was pregnant. Right now, they're still looking into how the alleged shooter, Arkia Tate, and the victim, Kyla Cooper and Rashad Thompson, might be connected.
Kyla's family sat through it all, clutching each other, tears often streaming silently down their faces. Her mother described her daughter as the light in every room, and her friends spoke of her laughter, her strength, her deep love for her children. The courtroom wasn't just hearing a case, it was witnessing the echoes of a life stolen too soon. In late 2024, after months of pretrial motions and hearings, Arkia Tate faced the full weight of the charges against her. Whether through plea or verdict, the outcome was inevitable, a conviction that would keep her behind bars for years, possibly decades. The judge's words were final, his tone firm but somber as he pronounced her sentence. Another life lost, another life imprisoned. There were no victors in that courtroom. Only silence, the kind that follows a story where everyone loses. Outside, reporters waited for statements, but Kyla's family declined. They didn't want the cameras. They didn't want the headlines. They just wanted peace, something they knew might never fully come. Because even when justice is served, it can never bring back what's gone. The courtroom eventually emptied, but the echoes of that verdict lingered long after the doors closed. For Kyla Cooper's family, the trial may have ended, but the grief never did. Their daughter, their sister, their friend, was gone. No sentence, no apology, no justice could ever bring her home. In the weeks after, photos of Kyla began to circulate online, smiling, radiant, holding her 2 children. Posts filled with heartbreak poured across social media. People who never met her shared her story, trying to understand how a simple confrontation between 2 young women could spiral into something so devastating. Her friends described her as pure light, the kind of person who'd give everything to the people she loved, even when it cost her peace. Her children, too young to understand, would grow up one day hearing the story, not just of how their mother died, but of who she was. A woman who loved deeply. Who fought for her place in a world that wasn't always kind. As for Arkia Tate, her name, too, would forever be tied to that night. From behind prison walls, she now lives with the same haunting reality, one moment of rage, one pull of a trigger, and 2 families destroyed. Neighbors on Golfview Terrace still remember the flashing lights, the sirens, the voices that cut through the night. Some say the street still feels different now, quieter, heavier, as if that tragedy left something behind. Time will move on, but for those who loved Kyla, the wounds will never fully close. Every birthday, every holiday, every milestone missed will be a reminder of what was stolen, not just from her, but from everyone who loved her. Because this wasn't just another crime. It was a collision of love and anger, truth and betrayal, a moment that reminds us all how fragile human life really is. One decision. One shot. One life forever gone. And as the world scrolls past another headline, somewhere, a mother is still crying for her daughter. Kyla Cooper's story is a quiet warning, about emotion, about choices, about how thin the line between heartbreak and tragedy can truly be. And so, as we leave the quiet street on Golfview Terrace behind, one question remains. When anger takes control, who really wins, and what's left once the silence returns? If you were moved by Kyla's story, don't let her name fade. Like, share, and subscribe to Fatal Whispers, where every whisper tells a story, and every story deserves to be remembered.